Hello, hello, loves, and welcome to the Women's Global Happiness Summit, where we are changing the world one woman at a time. I'm Carin Rockhind, women's happiness and life purpose coach and educator and speaker, and I am so honored and excited that you're joining us for today's speaker. I'm over the moon. This is going to be like the most fun half hour of your life. I'm over the moon to introduce you to Leah Piper, because I just attended a seminar with her. My husband and I did a workshop, and literally within 5 minutes of Leah speaking, I said, she must come on the Women's Happiness Summit. I just knew it and was like, you don't know me, but I need to have you. Let me tell you why. Because Leah Piper is the founder of More Love Seminars, and she is an advanced certified Tantra educator. She's a workshop leader, a therapeutic coach, a mentor for those seeking deeper meaning in the world of sexual love. Leah has been a student of Tantra since 1997, and she is the primary female facilitator for Source School of Tantra Yoga. She teaches seminars. She's been teaching with Charles Muir, who really was the person who brought Tantra to the United States. Since 2004, Leah has taught thousands of couples and individuals all over the world through More Love seminars, through the Source School of Tantra Yoga, through instructor training courses, and her own private practice. More Love mentor, and she elevates sex as an art form. She really empowers a woman to go from body conscious to goddess conscious, right? Resulting in feeling free and relaxed and sensual and powerful and playful and loving and open in the bedroom and beyond. So she really teaches ancient, modern, therapeutic techniques for all of us women and men, but for those of us here, for all of us women, to discover how sex can unlock the keys to having a loving, passionate, spiritually fulfilling, and happy life. So I am beyond excited. Leah, welcome and thank you.
Hi. Happy
Hi.
to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah. I'm telling you, the minute you started speaking, I said, she's got to come on the summit. And by the end of the weekend, I knew it even more, because you have this beautiful way of really empowering women, helping women feel, as you said, go from body conscious but to goddess conscious, right? And instead of sex being a dirty word or something that is, we're not supposed to love, or we're supposed to love too much, but for it to become a spiritual practice.
Early on in my training, one of the things that we were taught was to see the divine in everybody. And that when you really focus on the divine spark in somebody else's eyes, when you give them the benefit of the doubt that their intentions are in a good place, when you focus on their lovability, when you focus on their genius, what you get back from that person are all of those things. You get their divinity, you get their genius, you get their beauty, you get their good intentions, you get their lovableness. All of that will shine back at you. Sometimes we tend to focus on, the negative aspects of someone. Right, and then that's what we get back, a lot of their negative stuff. But the same thing is true for ourselves. And I had to learn to look into the mirror and see the divinity in me. I had to look into the mirror and start seeing me the way other people see me, which is a kind, loving, loyal, trustworthy, gorgeous, emphasize the word gorgeous, human being.
Yeah.
And that was a journey, because the voice in my head was not always a loving voice. The voice in my head was oftentimes a very critical voice that would say really ugly, mean things. Things that the Leah who would be in the world would never utter about anybody, not even her worst enemy. But yet I was willing to be my own worst enemy. And there came a point where that voice got so loud that I had to do something about it, because I knew it wasn't the truth. Yeah.
That voice that you describe is so familiar to so many, if not every woman. Right? It's
so true.
That constant, not enough Not enoughness, not good enough. And anyone looking at you is like, well, of course she's gorgeous. Of course, right? Like, look at her, right? And to hear that you went through that journey, depending on depending on which statistic you look at, Glamour magazine did a study, and of 300 women, 97% of them had a negative thought about their body that day. Another study found, a Dove study found that 80% of women in the United States, up to 90% of women in different countries, dislike their bodies. I mean, this is an epidemic.
Totally. It breaks my heart. It so breaks my heart because we waste so much time not seeing ourselves in the true reality of who we are. We've got this crazy story. It is tragic that women think so poorly of themselves, and especially of their bodies. Because if we're going to have a more pleasure-filled life, if we're going to have more female leadership, one of the first places we got to come home to is this body of ours. This precious gift called a body, and to start experiencing life not from our head, but from our body. And when we can tune in this instrument like it was a piece of music, then things start to open and vibrate and dance, and opportunities get to come towards you so much more effortlessly. Like your world opens up when you choose to go ahead and occupy this space right here.
Yeah.
And let it be.
Yeah, no matter what. It's not like what you see in 30 pounds later, right? It's like what you see now. So you started to talk about pleasure, and of course my body starts doing this when right? It's like it gets all juicy. And this is really difficult for a lot of women. Right? How do we get into our bodies? How do we get out of our head and into this?
So I had to, that's exactly what I had to do. I had to figure out a way to get in my body because, look, I knew that I should have a good self-esteem. I knew that I was supposed to like my body. I took the tests in Cosmo about self-love. I watched Oprah, every single day. I love Oprah. I still listen to Oprah. I'm a super soul Sunday person over here. She nourishes me on so many levels, but you can't think your way into self-love. You have to actually emotionally, spiritually, and physically love yourself. Because if we could think our way into loving ourselves and loving our bodies, we'd be there already.
Oh yeah.
It's not in the head. So, one thing I know about women is we know how to be a good friend. We know how to comfort our best girlfriend when her heart is broken. We know how to pick up that little kid who just skinned their knee and comfort them and make them feel safe. We know how to be the safe harbor for our lover, be them a man or a woman or someone who doesn't identify as a gender. We know how to take care of our parents when they're sick, and we know how to support our sibling when they feel down in the dumps. We know how to do it.
Yes.
And we just have to then go, if I know how to give it, how can I reverse this and go like this?
Yes.
And I had to come up with a ritual. So I could make time for me. So I decided I do it in the bath. Now, you don't have to take a bath to do this ritual. There was just something about coming into water that made me feel like I could be born again. Yes. It's kind of like being back in your mother's womb with all that fluid. It's like, can I have a second chance?
So warm. Yes. Especially if you put the bubbles and the rose petals in.
Right. So, and that was the other part. I wanted to create a ritual that was in the spirit of feeling beautiful. So I brought in the candles, and I bring in all the soapy potions, and I went ahead and bought some of the expensive stuff. Yes. Because typically I'm going to buy everything on sale. But for this particular ritual, I was going to buy at least one thing that was not on sale, that was a little special, that made me feel like the person who someone else would cherish with such gifts. So I want to treat myself with some of those gifts. So I would turn on beautiful music, and I would dim the lights, and I would sink into that warm water, and I'd come into prayer. And I use my own hands to touch this precious body. And I would say loving things to myself, especially when I really was looking for the beloved, and I wanted love in my life, and I wanted partnership. I had this little girl dream, having grown up on Disney, that like the Prince Charming was going to show up one day, and he was going to fill all the holes that were left aching inside of my heart.
Right.
And
I had the same idea.
Yeah, right?
Right? Yeah.
We all do. We have like the script of what this perfect person is going to say to us to make us feel all the things that we secretly want someone to see.
Right.
And I just decided enough with looking for the middleman to give that to myself.
Wow.
I was just going to skip that part and just tell myself all those things. You're beautiful. I love your eyes. I love the voice, your voice on the voicemail. I love holding your hand. Your skin's so soft. Bless you.
Thank you.
You're so smart. God, that was such a great idea. Oh my God, I love your belly. You've got the sexiest, softest, smoothest, plumpest, yummiest belly. Oh, those creamy thighs. Girl, those creamy thighs are so sexy. So even though I didn't believe my belly was sexy, even though I didn't like my thighs, even though I secretly thought I was hideous, I mean, even now I'm kind of like, wow, that was so mean. But I really believed I was a hideous, ugly, fat, disgusting, unlovable human being. Those were some of the words I would say to myself when I was looking in the mirror. And so this ritual taught me how to turn down the volume on that ugly, mean voice and turn up the volume on this loving, adoring, worshipful voice. And at first, they were like competing, right? Because one voice I would say, and I would say it out loud. So not just in my head, I would say out loud.
That's important. Got it.
That's a distinction. Leah, I love your sweet, creamy thighs. I love them. They're soft and beautiful, and they're so gorgeous and creamy. And then I'd have another voice. That other voice would jump in and go, liar. You're disgusting. And I was almost like that voice that was so loving had to go, nope. You do not get a seat in this bathtub. Yeah. And I would actually use my hand and turn down the doil. And then the other thing is, while I'm saying, "Ooh, I love your creamy thighs," I was also touching those creamy thighs. And I was putting my heart in my hands. So that's a particular technique that we teach in our classes, where you imagine that your heart is this generator. Your heart's this generator of love and passion and beauty, and your arms are extensions of that generator. Your arms are extensions of the heart battery. And so sometimes we need to create more circuitry in our body. And so imagine that your hands are the cables of the battery, and I can place those hands purposefully on my skin and just go, and then say the loving things. And that's what I mean by the physical application of loving yourself. You have to physically put the love in. You have to physically say the words out loud. Right. You have to energetically imagine that the flow of love that's in your heart is now being placed inside of those cells on that stomach that you think you hate. You just haven't learned to love it yet. And so by adding those elements of physicality, energetically, and choosing to treat the experience as a prayer, that you are worth being worshipped, are all the ingredients to create alchemy and to transform this negative belief system into a really powerful, unstoppable, beautiful, creative machine in the world that brings light and love.
Isn't that what we all want?
Isn't that what we all want?
Do you all see why the second I met her, I'm like, I'm here, and like, I was so excited to take this workshop with you. I mean, it was unbelievable, because this is, right, it's like, as you may know, twice as many women are depressed as men, and women suffer from more anxiety and from less confidence and all this stuff. And what you described, it's like a coming home and a loving this body that does so much for us, really treating her the way we want that prince on the horse to treat us. And so it's so beautiful. Yeah. So Leah, as we feel that, one of the things I hear a lot from women is around orgasm. And just how hard, sometimes a woman might not feel sexy. So she might not orgasm because she doesn't feel sexy. And then she might not feel sexy because she has a hard time orgasming. So where does that, let's talk. We can call it pussy. We can call it yoni. I know a lot of people call it vagina. I don't, you don't, because that is just the tube, the sheath that a penis goes in. So whatever we want to call it, right? We'll call it yoni for this conversation as a sacred word. How do we love her?
Well, it comes down to, as I was describing how I touch my thighs or how I would be reverent towards my belly, I often start with places that I tend to hate. Some women hate their breasts, and so it's like then massaging your breasts with love and tenderness and care, the way you'd want this perfect lover to come and love them. And the same thing is true for your vulva. And the vulva is the correct anatomical name for the outside of your vagina. And it's where so many of your nerve endings are that help you reach climax. So something that's really fascinating that really helped me embody my pussy or my yoni more was understanding that my vulva and some of the erectile tissue inside of my vagina is filled with erectile tissue. Just like a man's penis is filled with erectile tissue, we have just as much erectile tissue, inch for inch and ounce for ounce, as men. So I want you to imagine, ladies, an erect penis filled with passion and desire, and it's ready to just go into orgasm land. I want you to know that you got one of those too. And we just have to learn how to
use it, how to get her there.
The flow and all that blood and all of that sensation into our yoniverse, into our vulva. And so it starts with curiosity, with, okay, what turns me on? Because I don't know about you, but I remember kind of coming of age and being sexually active, and a man would say something like, so, what's your fantasy? And I'm like, I don't really know. I don't know that I have a fantasy. Just try something and I'll tell you if I like it.
Yeah.
And what I realized is that him asking me what's my fantasy was really his way of saying, hey, Leah, what's your map? Like, how do I pleasure you? What do you like? What turns you on? Like, how can I win with you? What's going to, like, turn you on and light you up and make you feel juicy? Well, I didn't have an answer to that questions either. So
I think most women don't.
You don't.
You would know this better than I do, but from what I've seen in my work with women and in women's groups and circles I'm in, most of us, I think when we were young, we have a lot of shame around our yonis. We have a lot of shame around it being our periods and that being the curse, or around we're not supposed to touch it. That's bad. So there's so much built up there. And
we think it's ugly, we think it's smelly,
right, hairy. I mean, we have all these issues, and so I think often we just cut it off and say, forget it. That's just not, I'm not going.
Yeah. So take some courage. One of the things I really recommend, and I know that this may be a little daunting at first, but this is where you got to be courageous. And women are so courageous. I know, ladies, even if you feel a little embarrassed by this idea, you are courageous and you can do this. Okay. You just got to confront whatever willies you get at the idea of actually taking a mirror and looking at your vulva. And just like the same practice, you have to say nice things when you're looking at your vulva, whether it's your first time or it's your 100th time. I want you to take a look at the outside of your yoni when it's unaroused, before you've touched it. And I want you to consider it that it's a flower. And the more you look at it, the more you're going to be able to tell that that your yoni really is a flower. And at first, it's like all folded in, right? The labia is kind of tucked in. Its shape is a certain shape. Its color is a certain color. And then you can put the mirror down, and then just with little circles, little massage circles, all the way up and down your lips, your pubic mound, and your inner groin, just do little circle massages. Get some really good high quality food grade oil, like a coconut oil. Most women's yonis really like that. It's antimicrobial and safe as long as it's organic and food grade. And you're just going to massage just little circles. And I want you to spend at least 5 minutes. And that may seem like a long time. If you're enjoying it, Go 10 minutes.
Keep
go
going.
going. And maybe even set a little alarm so that you remember to grab that mirror after about 5 or 10 minutes of massage, and I want you to study your vulva. And you're going to see so many cool changes. Number one, it's going to get plumper. Even if you're not turned on, like super aroused, your yoni will still change. And I want you to see that it changes color. It's going to become a deeper color. And that's the blood flow coming into that erectile tissue. It's going to get plumper. It's going to get kind of fat. And I want you to just adore how full the lips become, how full your clitoris becomes. And then you'll even start to see it glisten a little bit. And what's so cool is after you've been massaging it for a few minutes, you'll actually see the petals are going to start to open up. And they're going to start to bloom. Here's your flower actually blooming before your eyes. And when you can make the distinction, that conscious loving touch to this beautiful sacred temple of yours, given a few minutes, you're going to make a mind-body connection that the blood is flowing. And I know for my body, when I could start to make a connection that my yoni is like a penis, and with blood and stimulation, it's going to open, that created the neural pathway for my brain to start hooking up to this yoni of mine, because it's our brain that is the biggest sex organ. We got to get our brain hooked up to our yoni, because the yoni will send the message up to the brain, and then the brain will send the message back down to the yoni. And we want that circuit really strong, because if we can create a mind-body connection, pleasure gets a lot easier. Wow. So that's number one, is play with the erectile tissue, help your yoni become alive, get it plump, and get it changing colors.
Okay. And there's like so much here. I just kind of want to put a little picture frame around it. So, I mean, even just looking, I know for a lot of women will be new. It was the first time I did it. You know, I realized when someone suggested this exercise to me that the only time I had looked was when there was an itch, right? When there was something wrong, then I would look, right? And this was such a different sacred practice to look with reverence and with love, and to not go, well, is that color ugly, or is it supposed to be like that? Just be in appreciation that this is, listen, any dude and or woman, depending on what you want, but certainly any dude who saw your yoni is going to find her gorgeous. So we've got to get over that, right? So, and then I love just the gentle little massages, and to watch what she does. This is so incredible. And that you say that the brain is our biggest sex organ, because the brain can certainly shut us off, right? If we're like, I gotta get the laundry done, I've got to, or I feel fat and ugly. Do they think I'm fat and ugly? Then it shuts off our sex organ. So I love what you're saying about making this connection.
And if you can, treat it like a meditation, that you're going into, again, a prayer, you're going into reverence, you're going into sacred space, and you want to quiet the busy thinking, analyzing, problem solving part of the brain. That would be the left hemisphere. You're coming into your breath, and you're connecting to sensation. So you want to meditate on sensation. What are the sensations that I'm feeling? Without judgment, whether they're big sensations or just little teeny sensations, whether they're ticklish and delightful, or whether they sting or burn. No sensation is a bad sensation.
Okay.
It's really about breathing, taking in that, and giving your yoni a voice. So the next step in this sort of touching and massaging is to take a deep breath in of this sensation, and then to give that sensation a voice, because your yoni wants a voice. No one's ever given your yoni a voice before, but we're going to start giving our yonis and our pussies a voice so that it can express itself and be our teacher. Not only is it a source of wisdom, once you tap into it, you'll start living your life from this yoni verse, because it has so much wisdom to give you, but also it's one of the elements that, if you want to be more orgasmic, is key. Having a sensual voice, giving your yoni a voice, just even if it's oohs and ahs and tingles or e's or ohs, or it's like any vowel, hard or soft, you're going to be guessing, but you want to give each sensation a little voice. Now, it doesn't have to be loud. You don't have to scream out a voice. Right. You know, it's not about When Harry Met Sally and you're trying to like come up with these, you'll get there.
Yeah.
But let's just start small.
With just a little, ooh, even a, ooh.
And it's these little sounds that are going to start to move stuck energy. Most women feel numbness. It's one of the reasons why we have a hard time climaxing is because we don't feel a lot. We feel kind of numb.
Right.
And we can move the numb sensation and transform it into tingling, sensual, yummy, orgasmic sensation. But we have to first meet ourselves where we're at. And go, okay, my starting point is numb. Welcome to 98% of women.
Right. No judgment. Right.
Yeah. You're not broken, sister.
No, you are not. In fact, I want everyone to know what the workshop I went to with you and the exercise that I did with my husband and the partner exercise, when we started, I was numb. So you are not alone. I'm with you. Like you said, 98% of the women. This is like
I'm with you too. You know, we all go through life and we have stressful situations, and sometimes we just numb ourselves out because it's how we get through a crisis. And that's going to happen to us even when you wake up as a more sexual being and you've done a lot of your healing work as a sexual woman. There are still going to be times in your life where it's your turn to feel numb. And I just went through one of those periods, and I've been on this path for 16 years. As a teacher, as a professional, I've been doing it for 21 years, just as a tantrika. So we have to be unconditionally loving towards all of these sensations. And if one of the things that I could impart to your community is we got to stop judging ourselves so harshly.
Yeah.
You know, there are times when there are spots in my yoni where it burns, and parts in my yoni that sometimes feel like a bruise. But if I bring loving touch and I make this sound of that sensation, that block, whether it's numbness, burning, or tenderness, lifts, and I get to feel what's underneath it. So we've got to also apply some courage to confronting some of the sensations that maybe, you know, don't feel like pleasure yet. Yeah. If we stay with it and we're gentle, it will transform to pleasure. But it's a practice. Yeah. Our sexual awakening into more pleasure, it's a practice. It's an unfolding. And let me tell you something about the goddess.
Please tell me.
She does not like you pressing an agenda on her. No. She has her own divine right timing. Yeah. And our job is to be open to this unfolding. You know, not to push it.
Right. We're always like, okay, right. I should be coming already. Why can't I orgasm? He's not, you know, performing, you know, or he's going to be upset, or she is, or whatever. And I love what you're saying. This is an unfolding. Yeah. And that's why I love, as you teach this work, it all is coming from ancient Tantra yogi wisdom. I mean, thousands of years old.
Yeah, this information was given birth in a matriarchal society over 2,000 years ago. And so it was this yoga that was meant for householders so that two people could, through their lovemaking, reach enlightenment. And so through this process, through this ancient technology, some things were saved and cultivated. And there are things that for us as modern lovers in our modern Western culture can adopt some of this science and some of this technology that is so old and so precious. You know, there are temples all over India that worship the yoni, that see its value and its wisdom, its pricelessness. And so we can borrow that from that culture and go, I'm priceless. I'm a wealth of wisdom. And your pleasure should be your teacher. And I would just invite people to stay really curious about pleasure and to do their research. You know,
pleasure research on themselves. Because I think most of us don't know, as we were saying, what is going to give us pleasure. And, you know, there can be so much as if pleasure is a bad word, or it's not important, or it's not going to, you know, these 10 other things are more important. And since I've been on this pleasure journey, I actually find that there's nothing more important. My old brain wants to tell me, you don't have time for this. But when I'm in that juiced up place, when I'm in that, like, ooh, you know, I'm enjoying, like you said, I attract so much more. It's my energy. It's your energy. And this is why I wanted to include you and include this topic in the Women's Happiness Summit, because we are, just as much as we are thinking brilliant women and strong, powerful women, we are sensual and sexual, and there is so much power in our feminine selves and in our yonis, and we deserve, I mean, listen, every human alive came from a woman, so we deserve that kind of pleasure. And I think we need to bring that back into holistic well-being. 100%.
Yeah, and so there's lots of techniques that I can guide women into actualizing more pleasure in their body and more pleasure in their vulva. And it's an activation process. So there are different erogenous zones within the vulva. There are 4 different nerve plexuses, neural pathways that bring orgasm to the brain and help light it up. So one of the things I want women to know is that the vagus nerve is the only nerve that we know about so far that carries orgasm not through the spine to the brain, but through the front of the body to the brain. And one of the ways that you can start to activate the vagus nerve right away and start feeling more successful with your pleasure is through sounding. Because the vagus nerve it wraps around up through the body, passes through each of the chakras, and then comes right into the throat on its way up to the brain. So when you make the sound of things that give you pleasure, it amplifies your experience of pleasure. That's why when you eat like a really good dessert, it's like, God, this is so good. Like, wow, it is really good. This is so yummy. That's actually quite orgasmic.
Yeah, it makes it better. 100%.
And you know what, like when you laugh so hard, your stomach hurts and like you've got tears coming down your face, like, oh my God, it's so joyful, that laughter.
Yes,
girlfriend, you are having a vaginal orgasm. Your actual yoni is contracting, is having involuntary contractions while you're laughing your ass off.
What?
Because your vagus nerve is being activated, it's actually giving you a vaginal orgasm. So for you girls who think you don't know how to orgasm, wrong.
You do.
Your whole life with that big ass laugh.
Oh my God.
That's your vagus nerve, and that's lighting up your brain.
Oh.
So you're a success, my darlings. Those of you who've been shaming yourself thinking you can't come, yes, you can.
Wow.
We just got to help you get more connected.
And there is no one better to connect a woman with her yoni than you. Wait, I have one last question.
Okay.
And then I want to tell everybody forever. I'm like, okay, every other interview is a half hour and we're going to for like 7 hours. So, so Leah, you really have already said so much, and you even just used these words a moment ago. But since you have an annual goddess retreat, you train so many women, you supported so many women, you yourself as a woman, what is one thing you want every woman to know?
It's a good question. I want every woman to know that she's worthy, that she's not alone in these quiet moments of worthlessness. I've been there too. I don't know one woman who hasn't gone through that gut-wrenching, painful, quiet, deep, dark moments of feeling utterly worthless and undeserving of love. And I want you to know that there's no bigger lie in the world than that. You are so 100% worthy of all the love and all the pleasure, that you are a gift on this planet and that you are wanted, you belong here, and we're saving you a seat, girlfriend. We got a big, giant sisterhood circle, and we've got a seat for you, and we've just been waiting for you to come home and fill it. There is a place, and you complete the sisterhood circle when you arrive. And I don't care where you're from. I don't care about your upbringing, the color of your skin, or how old you are, or how big or skinny you think you are. You are wanted, needed, and cherished. And we got to come together and do this together as a tribe. And we can dissolve these obstacles between us, and we can come home to each other. We just got to show up. So I just want you to know that I got a place for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank the freaking Lord for you, Leah. My
Thank
goodness,
you.
that was so beautifully said. And I feel so grateful to be in sisterhood with you and with all of you. And you are offering an incredibly generous free gift for everyone. I want to make sure that they will get it, which is to never miss another clitoral orgasm again. Leah has a video for all of you that we have a link to that will teach you some simple techniques for you to get that orgasm going. But as she said, we do it when we laugh and all this. So it's an absolutely free gift, and we have the link for you. And thank you. So,
You're welcome.
Leah, I have to thank you. I learned so much just in this half hour with you. I'm re-energized. I'm like re-excited. I feel re-juiced up, So you are just one juicy, powerful, incredible, beautiful in a million ways woman. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Carin, for the work that you're doing on this planet. And I'm just so excited to be a part of it. And in sisterhood, I wrap my arms around you and everyone. And I hope our paths cross someday along that sacred sexuality trail. And
yeah, they will. So for all of you out there, thank you for watching. Remember, this is the Women's Global Happiness Summit, and we are changing the world one woman at a time, starting with Leah, starting with me, starting with you. Because as we get into our most pleasurable, happy, beautiful, know we're worthy selves, that is going to just spread to everyone that we know. And that's how we're going to have a whole revolution. So with that, have a beautiful day. Bye.